everybody, it's Ken again with Xmods Gaming, shooting another video, and we're doing a video on the Game Gear, the VA5 model, and we modded it with a IPS screen from Retrosix. So it's kind of just an overview of the installation. So give you the pros and cons to this mod, and if you should mod your VA5 Game Gear. So to start off with, because I already got the mod completed here, so I'm just kind of late to the game on this, but no one else has shot a video on YouTube about it, so I'm kind of the first one. So right off the bat, you know, we're gonna, let's see if I can zoom in on that. See if that even comes out. So you can kind of see where it has kind of light bleeding from the display. So I don't know if that's the 3D printed brackets that came with this mod or what, but at least Retrosix does give you like 3D printed brackets, and that's kind of nice to align the screen, but I don't know what's causing that. There are like 4 LED green LED lights on the circuit board for it, and I'll show you guys that in a second. Because I'm gonna have to take this apart and kind of clean it up. So this is just kind of a rough modification. As it sits now, it looks pretty good, but let's see. Okay, that's max brightness. So I guess down is bright. But yeah, I followed the instructions on his website to the best of my ability. But to his credit, you know, he's the first one that has modded, or him and I guess Ben, if I'm pronouncing that right. They both sell screens, so yeah, I still haven't done the power board caps and the soundboard caps. But yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, it's not too bad, but you know, with how picky people are, because I'm going to sell this on eBay. So I also have a let's see if I can grab it, if I can find it. I do have a VA4 as well. So these have been released from Majesco. So on this one I try to recap. So this is a Majesco board, and the VA5 is just a later revision. I think it's the last revision of the Game Gear. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and take it apart and then take a closer look, and then I'll kind of give you like a overview and a kind of a walkthrough. Really, there won't be I might do some soldering in this video, but you know, I'll kind of show you what you guys need to do. Alright, I went ahead and took out 5 screws on it, and then you kind of have to open it up like a book, and then you know, you have your power, and then your soundboard, or actually I have it backwards here. So power, no, soundboard and then power. So and I did the old modification. I don't know if you're supposed to do that. Retrosix's instructions don't tell you how to mod the case in any way. but I cut out the screw post that's right here on behind this LCD screen, and I trimmed up the whatchamacallit, the cartridge slot shield, you know, when you put the cartridge in. Yeah, as you can tell, it kind of shields so you don't see. You know, I guess you could technically take it out completely. I never tried it, but so just kind of an overview. So, you know, when I initially got this, the ribbon cable, see if I can zoom out a little bit. The ribbon cable was kind of had like wrinkles in it. I don't know if that shows up on camera, but it seemed like it was used already or returned. But then again, I'm thankful for Retrosix for, you know, producing this board. So I'm hoping the LCD screen is not messed up. And then, you know, right here you do have solder points. So you got start, and then to ground, and then you have wires. So I put down this capped on tape just to I was, you know, just trying to fit everything in without hitting wires. So you want to route your wires to basically avoid these pads right here. And then I recapped this board. I didn't get a cap kit or anything. I just have a bunch of capacitors that are new. You know, these are like, I think they're VIA or VA or something like that. I don't know if they're just Chinese caps or what. You have to remove this inductor. Now what's good about Retrosix, he does make it really simple to modify, you know, to test and modify your Game Gear, you know. So there is like a test sequence that he has you do in his guide. Most of the other kits out there that you get from like China, you know, or AliExpress or something, you know, they're not gonna have a test phase. So you know, with that said, let's see if I can use my fingernail here. I'm gonna flip this up and then pull this out. But right here there's some LED lights that are green, little test lights. So I don't know if that's bleeding through and somehow affecting the LCD screen. So I might just put some black tape over it, you know. And then right here he has some dip packages, dip switches basically, to test the screen when you first get it. And then with the VA4, right here's the real, okay, I got screws kicking around. Right here's the real kind of difficult part. I had to use my, see if I can get it in frame, my microscope. See if I'll focus. Whoops. Sorry about that. There we go. So I had to solder. These are your data points. This is going to a resistor array. So I had to use my microscope and solder to this. And then I had to soldered it to these pads. Data 1, 2, 3. You know, you got your clock over here. Now I could have done probably a cleaner method of routing these, but you know, for all I know, I don't know if that's gonna be better. You know, because I try to make my shorts well, of course it's the first time I've done this revision, but I try to make all my data signals short as possible, you know, or else the leads will probably come out here. So I kind of end up routing a lot through this cartridge, by the cartridge connector, but there's nothing physically going to rub against it. And as far as I know, there's not there's no, these are just rivets right here. So there's no routing of screws or anything, so you could do that. It is kind of messy, but it's hard to make something elegant when you got more connectors than a typical mod for the IPS screens. So, but yeah, I'm thinking about getting rid of this coil too, so I can get more room for, like, you know, let's say this wire and stuff like that. These coils, to my knowledge, I don't think you need it at all, but I'm not an electronics engineer, so you know, you don't have to take my word for it. But I'm gonna remove that. I believe you can remove this as well, this little I think it's a capacitor, yeah. So you can remove that capacitor as well, but that has to do with like your upping the voltage for your CFL lamps. Jeez, that magnet likes to stick to the screws. And you know, I did put a glass screen on it, but I think it's glass. I'm not really sure. I ordered some ones that I know that are glass for other Game Gears, but I'm gonna sell this on eBay. But it does kind of up the price, because not only the mod's more expensive, but you know, there's just a lot more work that goes into it. But for me personally, with having a microscope, and I think a lot of YouTubers do nowadays, you can get them off of Amazon, and you know, you can really see what you're doing when it comes to soldering, you know. Yeah, with that said, before I go to the other side of the board, I'll go ahead and put this under the microscope so you guys can take a better look at it, and see about the resistor array right there. Alright, so we're taking a look under the microscope here. And right here is a resistor array, and it has carbon pads in Retrosix. They suggest not to heat up these pads for too long on their instructions on their website, because it, you know, could melt the pads, you know, because they're just carbon kind of painted on. There are suggestions on his website what you can do if you mess this part up. So how to use flux and a little bit of solder that was already there to get that soldered on the board. And here's the data pads and button pads as well. And then there's the LEDs. That's pretty much it. So that kind of gives you an idea. Alright, so here's a look at the 3D printed bracket that comes with the kit. So and then here's the LCD screen. So as you can tell on the cable, it's kind of wrinkled. So I don't know if this is like a used one, and I'm afraid to put in a different one that I have, just in case if the circuitry on it's different with the ribbon, because sometimes there'll be like capacitors and stuff attached to a ribbon on most of these mods from a different kit. And then I think with the see, I'm gonna put that under the scope because I think that is the LED lights. I'm just gonna go ahead and put some just black tape over it. See if I have any black tape. Oh, it's right here. All right. Just in case, because the inside of this is all chrome. It's like a chrome finish. So I don't know if it's like bouncing light everywhere. I would assume so, but it's kind of trial and error with this kind of stuff. So this might be like too big of a piece, but yeah, I might have to just shrink it down even more. And then, when you're doing this, get some canned air. This is stuff I got from the dollar store because I never buy it because it's expensive. I usually use an air compressor for like my computer or keyboards or whatnot. It just makes more sense instead of paying like $4 or $5. But you want to use this on your screen. It's another reason why I'm taking it apart, because I've seen hair under it, so I'm not going to sell something that has hair under it. And then, you just kind of blast it. Like, so hey, it works. Dollar store. And with how often I don't use it, only for that reason, that purpose, because it's convenient, that little can will probably last me a while. Alright, so I think I'm gonna take this coil off because it's in the way of everything, and I'll do that, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I am gonna shorten these. Let's see, zoom in and get it in frame. These power wires right here. So the two black ones, these are the only wires you get currently from Retrosix. And I just left them as is because I wasn't even sure if this board worked, because you got to take that inductor out, and then you got to I read the directions wrong. I thought you had to pull it to this capacitor on the negative side for some reason, from positive to negative. Almost fried the board because it was after work and I was tired and I was just trying to get this done, which I wouldn't advise doing that. Take your time, and I'd put in all your capacitors beforehand, because every Game Gear needs new capacitors. If it doesn't work to begin with, it's probably the caps on the board, and hopefully the caps haven't ate the traces, you know. What's nice about the VA5 is all the capacitors on the board were not corroding, so I probably could have left them on there if I wanted to be, you know, like a douche about it, but you know, I'm going to replace them regardless because they're like, you know, 25 years old or whatnot, you know, whenever this board was produced. You know, I think it was mid to late 90s, you know, and I think the first Game Gear came out in 93, so this would have been like 96, 98, something like that. I could be wrong. There's probably people out there that are more of an expert than I am, but you know, I'm just gonna shorten these up just because not only to make it look a little tidier, but just to eliminate fitment problems. And then you know, you got to avoid the cartridge. So yeah, when you take that inductor out, you have to solder to the positive side, and you'll see that in the installation guide. And oh yeah, I was going to mention this. I don't, you know, I always think of these things and I don't mention it. Get a some kind of conductor that is small. This is magnet wire, and it's 30 AUG. So it requires 155 Celsius temperature on your soldering iron to get the enamel clear, so you can actually use it to solder. So this won't short out on anything because it has enamel on it. So things that I learned over the years, you know, I wasn't sure how magnet wire even worked, you know. I knew it was coated, but I thought they use wax, you know, when they make stuff like these coils, you know, from the factory. It's kind of what it's meant for, and I could be wrong about that. Then again, I'm not a electronics engineer, so I'm going to take about that much off. Hopefully it's not too much. But yeah, I even used some of these non-enamel wires that weren't from this kit. It's from a different kit. That's also looks like about 30 gauge. See, I'm going to strip this back, so I'm going to try not to pull it. So this is about 20 gauge if I'm not mistaken. Alright. And then I'm going to take this other one off. That goes to the negative side of that capacitor, which is the ground wire. But yeah, that started seeing like smoke coming from somewhere. And just because I was like looking at the pictures instead of reading like I should have. So you definitely want to read the guide and follow it from top to bottom on his website, because yeah, you can end up like me and, you know, and totally almost mess it up completely. Okay, so I take this. What I do is kind of route my wire first, and then maybe leave myself a little extra, so I could trim about that much off, which is not much, but you know, you got to give yourself room for like stripping it back. And when you strip it, you don't want to leave too much conductor showing, because you got to solder really close to the 5-volt rail, you know. So I like to use some lead-free. I have some leaded solder. You've probably seen my other videos, and it's the first time really working well, other than when I manufactured circuit boards and stuff, you know, for a company. First time working at home with leaded solder. So I'm just fluxing this up, but yeah, that seems like it just doesn't. It likes to stick really well. I think that's why a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm gonna put in leaded solder," but it's hard to, you know, do rework with. It seems like. Alright, so that's kind of just staying clear from the copper pads, which are like the brass colored looking ones. And I have better flux, but I'm using this tacky flux. You know what, I'm just going to pre-tin the wire. Yeah, this is my spool that you see in all my other videos, and it's almost out because, you know, I'm taking on customers now, so constantly buying new material now, so I got to get more. I think I might just stick, probably because I'm used to working with it, lead free. And it could be the lead free stuff to just make it higher quality, really, you know. Alright, and what I'm gonna do, just because this thing's in the way, I'm gonna take my desolder pump, actually I'm gonna flux up all these joints on that coil. So just to make it easier to flow easier. And yeah, my electric desolder gun, this one's like electric desoldering pump. It's only $40 on Amazon. But the gun, I guess to get a decent one, it's like $200 to get like a Heiko. And the gun I had was I think it's S99A or something like that, just a Chinese one, and I kept on had to replace. I went through 2 coils in a matter of probably, in total use, maybe a couple months. So it kind of depends what you do, you know. You could just get a mechanical pump, or you can get one of these from Amazon. This one's Johanna or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. 30 watt. Of course, I'm in the US, so it's 110 volt. And so far it hasn't broke, but I learned also not to leave them plugged in, because I'll get busy with something and I'll leave them plugged in. See, the last coil I had just fell right out, so okay, this one might just fall right out. Or not. Alright, let's try it again. I'm trying to find any of the ones that are and usually Retrosix won't have you pull things like this, just because, as you can tell, it is more difficult than it looks. So okay, that's a cap up there, so yeah, that's all the legs. And it looks like the holes are cleared, but see if I can find a pry tool. So really, this is just kind of just saving you space. So when you put in the shell, you know, because you don't need something to up the voltage for the fluorescent tube that was there. So by removing that inductor, you're kind of disabling this anyway, from what I understand. Okay, and I didn't pull any traces, so there you are. Man, excuse me. And then I think what I might do, which is kind of a no-no in the modding community, is to put some, not hot glue on the solder joints, but on the wires, just for vibration's sake. You know, you can even put like a little dab of hot glue in each next to each capacitor if you wanted, just for shipping reasons, or even when you're traveling. And you know, instead of like capped on tape, you can also put a dab of hot glue, lick your finger, and then hold down the hot glue, and it will kind of smash it down. What I always advise against doing is putting like hot glue on solder joints, you know, because it can heat up the solder and really give you a hard time. Also, another thing that was difficult, because I was looking at instructions, was the brightness wheel. You got to, and I put some solder mask down because you gotta scrape away the trace to these 2 points on the solder wheel, and you have to run a wire. So I just used this hole and ran my magnet wire to M16, and then M15 I just routed this way just to stay clear of the button layout. And probably on the other side of the board I can probably use some hot glue or even tape just to route this wire closer to the board and keep the slack up. So just another pointer there. Alright, so I'm gonna do that, and then I'll go ahead and get this all buttoned up. Alright, pro tip, the screen fell out, got a bunch of hair on it. I think this one is glass, but I went and grabbed my other screens because I don't want to pick out carpet hair. And I'm going to do this like I did on my last one, is these little voids right here where you could see your screen protector. You could see like where it's kind of red right there. These are just holes. So I like to put a little bit of hot glue in there and then kind of bridge it over, and then maybe wet your finger a little bit, and then just to kind of lock it in. So I did that with my personal Game Gear, and the screen hasn't fell out because I think because the glass is heavier than the plastic ones, and the 3M tape might not be the best. And then try to keep any hot glue hairs off your So yeah, you kind of just fill in the corners and then just bring it up top, and then that way you can keep any hot glue hairs away from your screen. That's the only thing. It's kind of why I don't use hot glue a whole lot, because in modding, when you use hot glue, it kind of just makes everything look a little bit shoddy, but they do use hot glue a lot in like electronics, so not justifying hot glue, but in certain circumstances it makes sense, like if you're holding down capacitors or whatnot. So now, it's probably the hardest part for me is the whole, putting buttons in and making sure everything's flush. And really, I'm just trying to see if I can get it to where that screen doesn't have blooming and light all over the place. If not, I might have to sell my personal one because I have so much money invested in this. I can't really, so I might have to keep this one and sell my personal one. And just to prove it is a VA5. See if that shows on camera. Yeah, so VA5. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to try to get more money because it is a VA5. But if I end up keeping it, then I'm just going to be honest. So, if you are watching this on YouTube, go to my website, xmodsgaming.com, and then go ahead and go to the eBay shop, or click on shop, and then it'll link you to my eBay store. Just because I found out that that's cheaper for me to do than, you know, paying like $300 a year for like an online store. So sorry, my dogs are making noises. Man, I forgot to dust it off again. I'm gonna pull it back out and dust it off. It's attention to detail, though. You know, you don't want to regret having something behind the screen when you put it all together. You know what I mean? So, see, look at that. There's like dust all over. You know, it's hard to tell sometimes if there's dust in there or not. So yeah, from like start to finish, the Retrosix screen, you'll get a dust cover on that one, and for the screen, it's a film of plastic. And I recommend keeping that on until the very end and then pull that off. So I'll go ahead and put the screws back in for the top half and then put it back together and then show you guys the final result. Alright, so we got the screen all back together. Now there is some blooming, but it's not as bad after when I covered those test lights up on Retrosix's board. So this might be the way to go when putting it together, is get a piece of black tape, cover those LEDs, and you know, I really don't like this new screen cover. It seems like it's kind of bulging out, but it's glass, so it's not going to scratch, but you know, they all can't be winners, I guess. So this is Ken with Xmods Gaming. Until next time. Next video we'll do the power board and the sound.